Hello everyone, I'm Habib kaouther. BSc EZSB Ali, computer science student, and today I'm going to talk about Agile. Why choosing Agile and why Agile is an important software development tool in our life. I'm going to take an experience that we could have already experienced or could happen in anyone in his life. When our project starts beautifully, we have the perfect team, the perfect plan, and then it's just about the halfway through, your customer discover what they really need. And with all of this, your schedule changes and you run out of time. But don't worry, changing teams, reduce schedule, and changing requirements are the norm of any interesting software project. To deal with these realities, you need a work management plan. To answer this, we should know the Agile project management. The plan of this talk, we're going to talk about Agile fundamental, what is Agile, the key concept, Scrum, XP, the difference between Scrum and XP, and finally, why Agile. Let's move to the Agile fundamental. Before we know Agile fundamental, let's know what is Agile. You may think that Agile comes from a big book or something, but no, the reality is Agile comes from this manifesto, which is only 68 words long, as you can see here. The story behind this manifesto is that 70 leaders in the software development got together and they found they had a lot of common problems. So they talk about alternative and they arrived, as you can see here in this manifesto, says that in Agile, we value individual interaction over process and tools. We value working software over comprehensive documentation. We value customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Here, a negotiation, it means achieving agreement between two sides. And the contra, we don't mean a real contra on paper. And we value responding to changes over following the plan. In my own opinion, the last point is the most important. Like responding to changes is the most soft skill. It's so important in a person. So I think that the last point is the most interesting point in this in the manifest. The most interesting point. So this is the core of Agile. The thing that basically everyone would agree is this manifesto, and it is very focal and very short. And if you are achieving those kind of results and those behavior within your team, it's probably mean you're doing really well. So congrats. Moving to the key concept. To be more specific, I'm going to talk about Scrum, which is the most important Agile framework. Introducing with the first Scrum concept, which is the Scrum roles. We have three roles in Scrum: the the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the development team. Starting with the Scrum product owner. Before we define it, I have a simple request to you to understand this. Imagine yourself as a product owner who's leading a development team. So you're the product owner and you have individuals who works with you. Imagine, for example, you are the product owner of Amazon app. Under you, there is a group of individuals who can do certain tasks. Now, as a product owner, your main responsibility is to maximize the total value of the work done by the development team. And one of the important things that a product owner is responsible to maintain the master list of pending tasks. This is also known as the product backlog. We're going to talk about it more later. So each item in the list should be clearly expressed, and the priority of each item is your responsibility. And you should make sure that the development team understands the tasks in the list. Well, since the development team is the one who gonna make these tasks, so you have to make sure that the item are well explained to the development team. Well, moving to the next component, which is the development team. The development team is a group of people who works on requirements and deliver a final product, and the product from each sprint. Sprint is another Scrum event. We're gonna also talk about it later. Sprint in each sprint, you release an upgrade to the previous product with a new feature. Now let's look at the characteristic of a Scrum development team. The cross-functional. This is mean that the skills required for doing the work and the backlog are available with the team. Second, the team is self-organizing. That means no one tells them how the work should be done. That means everyone know how exactly to do their work. And it is suggested that the team size is from 3 to 9 members is good. Well, less number of people lead to less interaction, which costs productivity. And on the other hand, if we had a lot of people, it will be hard to coordinate. Moving to the last role, which is the Scrum Master. He is the person who makes sure of the effective implementation. The Scrum Master helps the team to understand and execute Scrum. The role does not generally have any actual authority. The name was indicated for someone who is an expert at the Scrum, and can coach others and responsible for improving interaction between Scrum team and the organization. Well, the name of the Scrum Master have no relation with the role of this person. He's an expert at Scrum. So his role, his interesting point, he's the one who gonna protect the team from interruption and distraction. Moving to the Scrum events. Well, we have 4 interesting Scrum events: the sprint planning, the daily Scrum, the sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. Those events are regular, that means monthly, weekly, or daily, are time boxed, limited on the duration of this event to prevent waste of time. Let's know more what does it mean sprint. Sprint is the heart of Scrum. It's a short time boxed period when the Scrum team works to complete a set amount of work. Well, sprint is the most important thing. Like in Agile, if you're getting your sprint right, that will help your Agile team to ship better the software with fewer headaches. Moving to the Scrum artifacts. The Scrum team uses 3 artifacts: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the product increment. Starting with the product backlog. The artifacts are simply the thing created during the process of implementing Scrum. Starting with the product backlog is a list of all the features to be added. Initially, when we start the process, we will make a list of all the requirements, but as the time process, some requirements have to be changed and some to be added. The product backlog are dynamic and they are never fixed. So we can always change the priority between items. Moving to the next, to the second artifact, which is the sprint backlog. As described earlier, the list of items selected from the product backlog will be completed in the current sprint. This list of items selected in the sprint planning event and the status of this item is discussed in the sprint review. Even the daily monitoring of sprint backlog is done in the daily scrum, where each member tells to the team about the tasks done by that person. As the item become more clear to the development team, regularly update the sprint backlog. As long as the goal of the sprint doesn't change the development team, he can freely change and update the sprint backlog. But if there is anything that can lead to not achieving the goal, should be so this item should be highlighted. To summarize, this artifact sprint backlog is a list of items on which development team is currently working on. The last artifact, which is the increment, is the final realizable output created during the sprint increment. He must have the following characteristics. First, it should be usable, mean ready for production. Second, a complete solution that can be tested and verified. Well, with an incomplete testing, we cannot mark it as done. Third, it would include increment from previous sprints. Lastly, I want to discuss about a definition of done. Well, there is no single definition of done. You only have to decide it with your team and make sure that everyone agrees. So the definition of done can change from a group to another. Well, while Scrum is the most famous method, some people prefer using extreme programming or Scrum and extreme programming in combination because the extreme programming focus on the software development. Well, let's know the extreme programming. Extreme programming is an agile software development framework that aims to produce a higher quality software and a higher quality of life for development team. So basically, for development team, customer satisfaction is a guiding force to software development. But you may be wondering why it is called extreme programming comes from. Well, because it takes the best practice of software development to the extreme level. XP works under software teams are successful when they build a greater code. For example, there is a technique called code review in this software industry, where if the developer is done with his code, they get it reviewed by another developer. And similarly, if testing is good, why don't we test every single day? Moving to the value of the extreme programming, XP. We have 5 values: the simplicity, communication, courage, feedback, and respect. Starting with simplicity, let's understand this value. Starting with simplicity. Simplicity means do the simplest thing that could possibly be done. The goal of simplicity is to avoid waste and absolute necessary things such as keeping the design of the system as simple as possible. Coming to the next value, which is communication. The value of communication comes from realization a lot of issues could be resolved quickly if things were effectively communicated. Well, for example, there is a team member who is stuck solving a problem, and another team member knows the solution. So we avoid wasting time by letting this team member look for a solution. Well, he can communicate with the other team member, and he can directly tell him the solution. So this is why communication is so important. Coming to the next value, which is courage. Again, back to define courage as effective action in the face of fear. You may wonder why courage is in the value of the extreme programming. Well, I'm gonna tell you why. You need the courage to raise the organizational issue that reduce your team's effectiveness. Well, you need courage to stop doing something useless that leads to nowhere and start doing something else, or at least the courage to try something else. This is why courage is so important in agile development software. Moving to the feedback. In the feedback experience, you expect that they will need to iterate the solution or their process. So iterate improvements are really important to get feedback and then take every iteration commitment seriously by delivering a better working software. Coming to the last value, which is respect. Respect is the foundation of the previous four values discussed before. If the member of the team doesn't care about each other, they don't respect each other, nothing can save the project because respect is the base of everything. So these are the 5 values of XP. Moving to the difference between Scrum and the extreme programming. Well, Scrum team typically work in iterations that's called sprints, as we see before. That sprints are from 2 weeks to 1 month, but XP work from 1 month to 2 weeks. Moving to changes in the sprints, well, Scrum is not allowed to do this. Once the sprint is completed, no changes are allowed. But in the extreme programming, it can be replaced with the other requirements when a need is not implemented, but the implementation time is equal. So the priority of features, well, in Scrum, no need to. In XPS, engineering practice. In XP, very strict, as we said before. Extreme programming, her focus is on the code and the developing. So required in Scrum, we have required developer to be conscious. So as we can see, there isn't a huge difference between Scrum and XP, but there's still some points that are different in, but they still the same in Agile frameworks. Let's move to the last point, which is why Agile, which is our point here. Well, first, the Agile method focus on delivering quality product and make customers happy. So, as we know all, Agile is a very popular method, and the popularity doesn't just happen to appear; it's happened for a reason. Agile focus is not only on the time; her targets also producing quality and a happy customer. Moving to the next point, which is agile processes are more effective and efficient. I guess we all agree with this point. The third point, that agile project management has a variety of methods. We already seen 2 methods, Scrum and extreme programming. Well, we can't use the same framework for every production. So Agile provides an extensive framework in each situation. So we have to choose the right framework in the right project with the right team, where we should keep our focus. Moving to the last point, which is Agile principle, make sure the team members are motivated. It creates a specific work culture that enhances um productivity. Before Agile, most teams worked on Agile without understanding what they were building. But the transparent nature of Agile has made it more easy. Not to only know why, but how to go about it with a sense of ownership and a common goal. So I guess this is a plus one for Agile about the typic method. And lastly, Agile principle, make sure the team members are motivated. Well, we arrived at the end of this presentation. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions, you can contact me on Twitter. And thank you again.